welcome to Big Little Stories. I'm Ivy Sharmetz. Several years ago, a good friend of mine was raising money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of New Jersey, and I went to a couple of her fundraisers just to support and show my appreciation for the work she was doing. And I was so moved when I learned about the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and the impact that it was having, not just on blood cancers, but actually on all cancer treatments. I'm very proud to say that since then I've been very involved with LLS. So I'm incredibly excited to welcome the Executive Director of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, Jana Boyer. Thank you so much for being here, Jana. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Of course. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
You know, LLS does so much incredible work, and I want to talk about that, but I'm also curious how you got into the nonprofit healthcare world. I know you've been doing this for a very long time. You just celebrated 25 years just at LLS. So how did this work come to you?
You know, it's interesting. I went to college to be a journalist, wanted to be a writer, wanted to work in the news. And throughout my college career, I had a couple of interactions with local nonprofits, a couple of work related assignments with my classmates. It wasn't until my senior year we had a project to do for our public relations class. We were assigned to do a year-long fundraising plan and communications plan for an organization called Gilda's Club. And it was through that experience that I really started to get interested in what that type of career or that kind of work could look like for me. I also interned at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia during my college career. And so those two things combined really started to open my eyes a little bit to what some of those other career paths and opportunities might be beyond writing, beyond public relations that I was studying at the time. Fast forward several years after graduation, there was a job posting that I really just happened upon, that the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society was opening a small branch office where I lived. And I thought, I don't know, let's go check this out and see what this is about. And truly, 25 years later, the rest is history.
One of the things that kind of fascinates me about this industry, this field of work, is it can sometimes feel a little overwhelming because it feels like there's so much work to do. And one of the things that I've always admired about you, Jana, is you sort of make everyone feel like as long as you are showing up and participating, you are doing good and you are helping us all make progress. But do you get a sense that this is just an overwhelming, when you talk about finding a cure for blood cancer or cancer in general, it feels a little daunting, I would say?
Sometimes it can be daunting when you think about all of the work that needs to be done, all of the patients that really need our help and support. I think it can be daunting, and I'm sometimes impatient as a person. And so feeling and seeing progress is something that's really important to me. And I think I look at things from the little pieces that add up to the big impact. And so, as you were just saying, everyone plays a role in how we can continue to move forward as an organization to reach more patients and to ultimately find a cure for cancer. That's what we're here for. But when you put it in such a big, broad goal, you have to break it down and really find ways so that everyone can feel part of that movement, because it truly takes every little thing, from sharing a tweet to raising tens of thousands of dollars. All of it is really equally as important to getting us closer and closer to that goal.
So share a little bit about the work that LLS does. It's involved in several aspects of blood cancer and I'll say cancer treatment in general and advocacy. So how would you kind of sum up the work that LLS does?
Sure. I'll try and be, it is a lot to cover of what this organization does. And I'm so proud of that work. So I'm happy to share. We are the world's largest voluntary health agency that's dedicated to finding cures for the blood cancers. And so certainly a big component of our mission is fueling research. Best and brightest research worldwide. That is where LLS is investing to help generate new therapies, new treatments for patients that are being diagnosed with a blood cancer. So that's a big component. But equally as large is our effort to provide support to patients and their families when they are facing a cancer diagnosis, or if they're several years after a diagnosis and are still in treatment and still need support. Our agenda at LLS is to support patients wherever they are, newly diagnosed, several years after, or many years post. We find that patients and their caregivers still need support in a variety of ways, whether that's financial assistance immediately, or that's longer term emotional support. LLS is there to provide that emotional, financial, informational support wherever patients need it. And then the third component, also important for LLS, is our advocacy agenda. And we've talked a lot recently in New Jersey. We recently were able to support the passage of a bill to really limit complications of medical debt for our patients and their families. And so that's just an example of the work that our advocacy team is doing on the local level here in New Jersey to, again, make sure that patients have access to the very best cancer care, the very latest innovations to treat their particular type of cancer. Oftentimes, finances can be a significant barrier to that. And so we want to work to advocate holistically for patients to, again, give them that support they need so they can receive the best treatment. So those are the three main things, but
you summed it up very well. I know it's a lot. One of the things that's always fascinated me about when I have spoken about LLS is the person who says, well, my mother, my sister, my cousin was diagnosed with blood cancer. I feel like we're getting better at it, but maybe we don't always know and talk about blood cancer and maybe cancer in general as much as we could. The awareness factor with regard to what LLS does, I know is so important too, just making people aware that these services are available.
Yes, I would say that that's probably one of our major priorities, certainly here in New Jersey and beyond, is making sure that when a patient does receive that diagnosis of a blood cancer, they know that we're here. And that's why, going back to your original question, every little piece that someone can do to help ensure that they're knowledgeable about LLS, know to refer a patient to our resources if they come across someone who has a new diagnosis, that's really critical. That's really important that we're talking about the organization, what we have available for patients, so that people aren't struggling and aren't sort of walking around in darkness in order to find their way, that they know that they have a resource to turn to.
I remember someone said at some point, when someone gets a diagnosis, don't Google, go to lls.org, because the information there is, number one, you can trust it, and also it's presented in a way that kind of takes you through the process as opposed to just being overwhelmed on Google with who knows what information you're getting.
Yes, 100%. I don't recommend Googling, although it's very difficult not to. Certainly, I think we're all guilty of doing that, but coming to lls.org, not only is all the information there, but the information can be given to you in whatever mode is best for you. If that's an email, if that's texting with one of our specialists, if that's just reading the information for yourself. People need and absorb information at different times and in different ways. And certainly after a diagnosis, whether it's your child, your partner, any loved one, you're overwhelmed. And so we want to make sure that volume of information gets to you in a way that works best for you and your family.
The way LLS is structured, it really does rely on the power of volunteers and the willingness of volunteers to step up and participate in the process and take on leadership roles. It's remarkable when you think of how much is accomplished based on people's willingness to volunteer. But talk about how volunteers really power this movement.
Volunteers are really the backbone of our organization. Yes, people like me and my team here in New Jersey, we're employees of the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and our job every day is to create this awareness and to drive connectivity, in that, so that we're raising the funds we need to for patients and their families. But without volunteers really amplifying that message, connecting out to their networks and their contacts, that's really how this work gets done. We work really hard as a staff team, but really the work cannot happen without volunteers who are willing to send an email, to make a phone call, to introduce us to someone new. That, as I said, is really the backbone of our organization.
And the thing, and you kind of ran through some of the lists too, but there's like a place for everyone who wants to be a part of this to become a part of it, whether you're someone who has a big network and you want to kind of introduce the work that LLS is doing to your network to get more people involved, or you just want to share a tweet, or you just want to send some emails, or you want to volunteer at an event. It's a very welcoming environment for people who want to kind of get on board with the mission.
Exactly, and that's the goal: is that everyone feels that they have a place, and it's about customizing that experience for the volunteer based on where they are. Our volunteers are very busy people, whether they have busy personal lives, busy work lives, and everything in between. Many of our volunteers have a family member actively in treatment. And so there's a lot for people to balance, and for them to give us whatever time they can. We want to make sure that that experience is customized to them, so they can feel special, that they're giving that time from their very busy schedule, and that they're making an impact. As you mentioned, whether it's coming to an event is as valuable as anything else. We really do need everyone to make that kind of progress.
And you encourage everyone so well too. We are going to take a short break, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about how we talk about cancer and how some of that has maybe changed over the last 25 years just in your career. So we'll be right back. Jana, because you've been doing this for 25 years just at LLS, I'm sure there have been changes that you've seen. In addition to, I mean, obviously there have been huge advancements in the way we treat cancer, blood cancer in particular, but also cancer in general. What are some of the things that stand out to you in terms of what has changed? I mean, it's a quarter of I don't want to make you feel old. I'm in the boat with you, but it is a quarter of a century.
Yes. It is a long time. I think patients are increasingly looking for ways to share their experience, to share their story with others. And that is so incredible, that someone who could be facing a really difficult road ahead of them has people that have gone before them, that are willing to share their story, to really share their experience to help the next person that is facing a diagnosis similar to them. And I think that's really remarkable. Some of the social media, those resources that we have now that we did not have 25 years ago when I started with the organization, has really helped to amplify those patient voices, those patient experiences in a way that we just couldn't do 25 years ago. LLS has great peer-to-peer resources for patients to match someone who has experienced a same or similar diagnosis, either themselves or with a child or a loved one. We used to do that all over the phone 25 years ago, but now there are webcasts, there are podcasts, there's all sorts of ways that we can connect those patient experiences together to really support the cancer community at large.
And it's so important, I think, to talk about cancer. It feels, to me at least, that recently, kind of as you just mentioned this, people have been more open about it and more willing to really share. And I've heard people, you mentioned the peer-to-peer program. I've heard people who have benefited from that peer-to-peer program who say that there's something about listening to someone say, I know exactly what you're going through. And yes, I'm on the other side now, and I'm okay, and I will kind of help you walk through the steps to make sure you're going to be okay too. There's, like, when you think about how powerful that is. It's amazing.
Absolutely. The side effects, the emotional toll, the financial toll that we were talking about earlier, that's heavy,
Yeah.
very, very heavy for people to carry. And seeing someone that has gone through, as you said, the same thing and is on the other side, whether it's several years past their treatment, they're doing really well. It provides a level of hope and a level of information that I or anyone else on the staff team can say it, but when it comes from someone who's lived your exact experience, there really is nothing. There really is nothing like that.
Um, how would you um, we've mentioned a little bit about how blood cancer and the work that's being done in the field of blood cancer is also helping all cancers. Can you explain a little bit about why that's so important and why that gets so many people to really want to help the work that LLS is doing?
Sure. We talk a lot at LLS on how blood cancer is really the tip of the spear. The blood is accessible. You can draw blood out of someone's body relatively easily compared to other types of cancer and other conditions, solid tumors, which may be much more difficult to physically get to study. And so the blood has really led to opening these pathways to all different types of cancer treatment because of its accessibility. And I think that that's really something powerful for volunteers and supporters to know and think about, that their support of our organization really does lead to new therapeutical development for other types of cancer, because it's truly the most accessible form of cancer. And so it's exciting to think about it in those terms, that those types of developments can come more quickly for other cancers as well, which is really exciting.
How do you deal with the emotion that goes along with this job? I mean, this is not a typical job where you kind of, check in the morning and check out at night. I know that you get very close sometimes to the people who have been patients, or mothers of pediatric patients. How do you handle all of that? This is a very emotional. From where I'm sitting, it's a very emotionally tolling job.
There is a lot of emotion with this role, and I've been with this organization for a long time, and terribly have seen far too many people pass away from their blood cancer, children, adults of all ages, and you do mourn that and grieve that every time, because there is that renewed sense of pressure, renewed sense of, we have to fix this. We can't let this happen again. And so balancing that emotional weight with moving forward with our day-to-day work, it is something that takes time. I do remember early on in my career, there was a little girl who passed away from leukemia, and it hit me incredibly hard because 25 years ago I was much younger and hadn't experienced a lot of that type of loss of a child, and it is soul crushing every time. It is something that you never get over. It is something that stays with you, but for me is also that motivator that we are just not done. While there is still a lot of progress, there are still a lot of things to celebrate, new therapies, better survival rates for most types of blood cancers. That loss is still happening, and we just can't be done. And so that's the motivation for me, to keep moving forward. The job does not feel done.
You mentioned that little girl. I feel like I can't have a conversation with you without asking you about the Dare to Dream project, because I think it's such a phenomenal, heartwarming, and just talk about Dare to Dream.
Sure. No, I would love it. It's one of my favorite subjects. So the Dare to Dream project at the Leukemia Lymphoma Society is our 5-year initiative to focus specifically on pediatric blood cancer. And it's really shocking to think that there are so few new therapies developed specifically for children. And most children who are facing a cancer diagnosis are being treated with adult therapies. And so you can imagine the type of toll that can take on a tiny body when they're fighting for their lives. And so while we've had great progress in pediatric survival in certain types of leukemia, it often comes with a heavy health toll for the children later in life, for complicating health issues when they're older. There's another little girl, one of the first children that I met when I started at the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, Claire. She was 2 years old at the time. She went through her treatment, is now cancer-free. She's in her 20s. She's married, but she suffers from daily debilitating migraines. And her doctors believe that's a direct result from the cancer treatment that she received at such a young age. And so the Dare to Dream project is really rooted in this belief that we need to fuel and fund research to help bring new therapies specific for children, to help limit those side effects, to have treatment that is specific to them, because they're not adults. They're very, very different. And so we're excited about this project and where it will lead us, again, to more safer treatments for children.
It's to help them to not just survive their cancers, but thrive in their lives
But
afterwards.
to thrive.
Yes. Who's a good volunteer? Who are people that you look for to kind of come out and help you move this mission forward?
I think good volunteers have an interest in doing something, people that really want to do something to help others, whether they have that direct connection to blood cancer or don't. They really just want to make an impact and they really want to help their broader community. That's a good volunteer. It's the willingness. Everything else can fall into place there based on their time, based on their network, and what they're really able to do and give. We can customize that for a volunteer, but it's the willingness. That's all it really takes, is someone who wants to help.
And as someone who's been a volunteer and working with you for many years, it's an amazing experience. I am one of my proudest things that I get to say is that I've done a campaign with LLS, and now I'm very happy to be on the board of trustees. It's just a really amazing organization, and the work you do, Jana, is just incredible. So thank you for everything that you do to just really make the world a better place is what you're doing. So thank you for all that.
Thank you. We're doing it together. Truly. It's volunteers like you, Ivy, that, as I said, keep us moving forward. And me being on this podcast with you is going to reach more people. And it really is special and really will make a difference. So thank you.
Well, my pleasure. We have been ending all of our conversations with what we're calling 3 big little questions, just to have a little bit of fun. Are you ready? We're going to do rapid fire.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Great.
All right, Jana, how do you get yourself out of a bad mood?
I usually call my son, who's in college, or I call upstairs to our daughter, who is 16.
And do they know you're in a bad mood, or you're just calling them to say hi?
No, I don't usually tell them I'm in a bad mood. It usually just helps me, get out of whatever thing is in my head that is bringing me down at the moment, just to think about them and catch up with them a little bit.
I love that. Okay. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, my goodness. Take a Look at Me Now by Phil Collins.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to have to do some karaoke soon so I can hear that. All right. There's so many beautiful places in New Jersey. What's one of your favorite spots in New Jersey?
Oh, that's an unfair. My goodness. I will say I grew up going to the Jersey Shore, Ocean City specifically. So I'll stick to that. Nothing like the boardwalk in Ocean City for me.
I love that. That's a beautiful place. One of my favorites too, as well. Jana, if someone wants to learn more about LLS, or they want to volunteer, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best thing to do is go to our website, www.lls.org, and you can find all the information there. Would love to have any and everyone join us.
Thank you, Jana.
Thank you, Ivy.
And that is it for Big Little Stories. I'm Ivy Sharmetz. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.